Okay, for the recording, welcome back. We are ACI Course 12. This is Class 1. Thank you for being here. It's March 22nd, 2026, where I am. Excuse me, and let's gather our minds here. As we usually do, please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom. And there they are before you, gazing at you with their unconditional love for you, smiling at you with their holy great compassion, their wisdom radiating from them, that beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. And recognize how the worldly ways we try fall short. How wonderful it will be when we can also help them in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to stop their distress forever. Deep down, we know this is possible. Learning about emptiness and karma, we glimpse how it's possible. And so I invite you to grow that wish into a longing. And that longing into an intention. And maybe even into a determination if you feel ready. And then with this state of mind, we turn our mind and heart back to that precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet, become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please, please, please teach me that, show me that. Help me become like you. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the pure world. They are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer to make our promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayana. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings totally awaken for the benefit of every single other. Right. So ACI Course 12 is part 3 of the study of the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. It's amazing we're starting Course 3. It seems like yesterday we were starting 1. So Course 3 covers chapter 9. And then almost as if, oh my gosh, I almost forget. Gosh, Geshe Michael throws in chapter 10 because chapter 9 is so rich. I think he could have gone on for another 15 classes. We've already covered chapters 1 through 8 in this amazing text, learning about the perfections, the 6 perfections, at least learning about 5 of them so far. And just to remind ourselves, this is not included in the 5 great books of the monastic study, but rather this is a text that they study as a special classes during, I don't know when they bring it up, but they do study it in detail. And Geshe Michael's opinion is that it's one of the most important books ever written. And this chapter 9 is the most important chapter within this most important book. So in the story, Mr. Three Thoughts is on that high throne that he magically got up onto. He's giving this teaching, right? From memory, I guess you could say, but he's just there talking it in verse, saying those verses to people. And by the time he's getting into chapter 9, his mind is getting so lofty, they say, that he's actually levitating off his cushion. And the people there, I guess, there's just like high lamas do that. And the story goes that he just got higher and higher and higher towards the end of that section. And there were some people that he got so high, they were out of reach and they didn't even hear the end of the chapter. They didn't even hear the 10th chapter. But there were other beings there that could follow. Either they had this clairaudience that they could still hear him, even though they couldn't see him. And the story says there were some that were levitating with him. So they were like following along, and their mind was getting so lofty that they just went up with him. And then in the end of the story, if you recall, he said, well, my written copy are in the rafters of my room. You're welcome to them. So they found that there was, in fact, a 10th chapter, a chapter on dedication, which is so beautiful. So chapter 9 is the chapter on wisdom, the perfection of wisdom. And so it's a chapter about emptiness and the meaning of emptiness and what it is to experience that directly. And then we'll learn about how and why it is that that experience is the key to bringing an end to all suffering, our own suffering, and how, with some fine tuning in our understanding about what happens in that experience, we will go into and come out of that experience with an additional factor that will put us on that conveyor belt to the end of everybody's suffering, not just our own. Geshe-la explained how that direct experience of emptiness, probably only takes 20, 30 minutes. And that the experience that precludes that only takes a few minutes. And that if the heart-opening bodhicitta is an experience we have afterwards, that only takes 5 or 10 more minutes. And then if we have been a practitioner and we've gained any kind of realizations in our creation stage or completion stage practices, those have probably only taken another 10, 15, 20 minutes. He says overall, it's about 45 minutes of our life. Not all at once necessarily, but in total, that are the only meaningful minutes that we've ever experienced, like ever, not just the life that they happen. And we come to realize that everything else that we do is just time spent in between these extraordinarily meaningful experiences. And he says we recognize that there's really nothing important other than cultivating the circumstances that can trigger those experiences. Because not just anything does that necessarily. We understand that 20 minutes of direct perception of emptiness guarantees the end of our own suffering. The end of suffering doesn't happen at that moment, but it's guaranteed. Those 20 minutes also guarantee our enlightenment. That doesn't happen immediately afterwards, but we will have seen it. So we know that it's a truth of our future being. Then apparently we will know that no major bad things can happen to us anymore. Not that unpleasantness can't happen, but not things that would rock us from our worldview or interfere with the progress in our path. It would all be used as part of the path. So the reason for these classes, all of the ones that ACI provides everything that Geshe has done since then, it's all designed to help us cultivate these causes and conditions that will trigger this direct perception of emptiness. And so start the beginning of the end of your suffering, which is why he does what he does for us. So it's a great, great goodness to have the seeds to get a teaching like this. It's a rare opportunity. It's a great privilege to be the one to deliver it to you. I'm essentially a stand-in for your own precious holy angel Lama, that one that we call to us at the beginning of class. I turn myself over to them and let them use me to speak to you. Like I'm not aware of it happening, but I know that that's what's happening here. So this particular course, Geshe said, try not to miss a minute of it. Now recall when he was originally giving these classes, they were recording them on audio cassettes, which weren't available to people until weeks later. So if you missed a class, you were out of luck. You could get somebody who was there to say, oh, this is what I heard. And he would encourage people to do that. But he said, if you miss more than 2 classes, don't come back because you've missed too much. So we have the advantage of having instant access to the recordings and very swift access to transcripts. And it's a sign of your goodness. But don't rely upon that because of the power of the oral transmission. It doesn't happen in the same way with a recording. So do your best to get here on time, to get here. I don't care if you have to lay down because you feel so awful. Just have your headphones so that you can hear it. Then do your best to do the assignments. Do your best to do the meditations. Probably most important is to do those contemplations. And then find some way to talk to other people about it. And share, I heard her say this, I heard her say that. What do you think that means? How does that apply to me in my life? Just hash it out. If you want to do formal debate with it, great. But discuss it with somebody, whether it's somebody in this class with you or not, just discuss it because you want to hear your own mind trying to describe it to somebody else. You don't have to do it perfectly. We want to hear ourselves trying. All right. So, if you do miss a class, listen to the recording at least, if not all the other stuff, before coming back. All right, so we're working on the chapter called The Perfection of Wisdom, which we understand that's a code word for the direct perception of emptiness. And building up to that on our path of preparation, we are studying, right? Serving, meditating, working with the ideas of emptiness, trying to get to the point where we can recognize how our own mind is holding wrongly to the subject, the object, and the experience between them in any given moment. And as we become more familiar with the different, what we call the different schools, what we'll actually come to find, it's like, wow, that's no school like UCLA, USC. That's the state of my own mind when something's going on and it's trying so hard to blame somebody or something for the experience I'm having. And it's so automatic that we don't even recognize that we're making a mistake. But as we get more sophisticated in our understanding, we can catch ourselves like, no, that unpleasantness has to be in that. And when we start catching our own mind doing it, that's when we can go, oh man, I'm not even in school number one yet. Like I'm totally in. God made that happen. Even though I intellectually, I don't think I believe it, right? Just my upbringing kicks in and whammo, I'm doing it. So it takes a lot of mindful awareness of our experiencing happening, which is the beauty of that Maha Mudra practice. Because if we've been working with that, we're getting keener and keener in our witness ability. Have you noticed, some of you? Anyway, so that's not what this course is about, because this is like a beginner course in ACI 12, but none of you are beginners. So we'll be able to hear things deeper. And my guess it's going to come out of my mouth deeper, in deeper ways than the way it was given to Geshe-la's original group. And that'll be interesting to see how that evolves. So it's an emptiness course. So we need to start with our friend the pen. But Geshe-la does it a little bit differently here. Okay, very skillful. So what is this thing? Wait, let me prove it to you. You see the little thing coming out? Do you see my finger making it do it? Do you see this thing? Link. Now watch. Let's see if it will perform. You know it's coming. So, what is this thing, please? It's a pen. We agree. Nobody, that's not the argument. It is a pen. Now, when you see it, you didn't even need me to demo it, did you? You just, there she's holding up a pen. Our minds did it so fast. Now pretend you are an infant about 9 months old. Maybe you remember being 9 months. I don't. But I remember my little sister being 9 months old. And if you handed her anything, right, her little hand would grab it and then throw it on the floor. And it's like, why are you throwing that on the floor? Right? But that's what happened with everything. And it didn't matter if it was a glass of milk on the floor, mess, right? Because they have no concept. They're investigating in the only way they know how to investigate, which is with their mouth and tongue. I think still at 9 months, maybe 6 months, that starts changing. I don't know. But so pretend you're this tiny baby and somebody hands this thing to you. Just feel what you are experiencing. Try. Now drop that. Go back to you, adult you, pen. Go back to baby. Go back to adult you. Pen. Go back to baby. Babies seeing something, aren't they? We can't really even say they're seeing colors and shapes because we don't even know that yet. But they're getting information. So could you imagine experiencing this object and not seeing pen? Yeah, Geshe said, we can do it. We can see this object and not see pen. I personally can't do it. I see pen and then I take it away. Okay, I'm a baby or I'm a fly. I can imagine, but it's pen first for me. So I'm really happy that you can get at the data. It's a great big first step. So when it's just colors and shapes, can you get a sense that it's otherwise unidentified? And so it could be anything? Not that the baby thinks that, but us doing this exercise, when my adult me says pen, it is locked in to being a pen. But when we're pretending to be baby and not really knowing what it is, can you feel that? I don't know, what would you call it? Anticipation or possibility? The adult me pretending to be baby goes, wow, what is that? What is that? What could it be? Mhm. So now suppose our friend the puppy comes in here and I show the object to the puppy. Hey, don't jump to conclusion. Pretend you're the puppy. It's not all that different than the baby, is it? Really? They perceive something, I don't know, probably with visual information, but they also get that olfactory information that's probably more information than we get even with our eyes. But regardless of that, what does puppy do with it? Right? Sniff it, put it in their mouth, and then chew it, run off with it, bury it in the yard, play with it, shake it. Is it a pen for the dog? It sure looks like it is. Because to us, we see they have a pen in their mouth. But from their side, it's whatever they are experiencing, isn't it? In our arrogance, we say, oh, they're chewing on a chew toy. But I don't really know that that's what it is for them. So, what is this thing? Yeah, we know, right? We know the punchline. But honestly, right? Watch your mind. What is this thing? What is this thing? What is this thing? Be honest. What is your mind saying? Yeah, it's a pen. It could be anything to anybody else, right? See how arrogant we are as humans? As if it starts out a pen, and because they're a dog, they can't see it as pen, so it can be something else, or a baby just can't see it. And that's revealing our mistake. But why is it revealing our mistake? We are thinking that this object has something about its identity in it, from it, which we contact in some way at the same time as the object, right? We don't perceive it as an object that has an identity. We perceive the identity and then call it an object. So we are perceiving the thing with its name and function in it. We call that self-existent. We're going to talk about those words because we want to understand it better. So we're thinking the pen has its own identity in it, from it. We're not like thinking it, whoa, I wonder if that object has its own identity. I think it does. It just happens. We're forced to experience it that way. If this object had its identity in it, from it, the way we hold it to, what would be the ramification of that by way of anybody other than me perceiving the thing? Logically, what would it mean if the thing has its identity and function in it? We have to all see it the same way, says Tracy. Do you see that? Logically. Like, we don't want to just say, oh, Geshe Michael tells us, so I'll believe it. We want to get it. If it is its own pen and pen's right, independent of any other factor, that's what self-existent means, then every being who comes across this object would be forced by the object to see it as a pen and use it as a pen, right? And so our belief is starting to crack already, right? Because if its pen and its function is to write, is in it, from it, we wouldn't even be able to see a pen and not write with it. Because to see a pen and not write with it, when pens are things that write, there has to be something we're bringing to the party that's influencing the object that makes me either write with it or not write with it. If the object has its own identity, it forces us to see it the way we see it. And if it's independent of the one who's there to see it, then it will give its identity the same to everybody. You, me, baby, dog, fly, outer space alien who's never been to this earth before. Every being would have to experience it identically because it's under the object's determination, and the object has to determine it the same way every single time because it doesn't depend on anything. So is it logical then that I can see the front of this pen while you see the back of the pen? If the pen is coming from it, independent of us, how can I see the front and you see the back at the same time? Something about the pen is dependent on you being there and me being here. And isn't anybody going to argue and say, no, you're seeing the front of the pen, I'm seeing the back of the pen? Because isn't that your experience? Yeah. So how can that be the case if the thing's identity is in it? It can't, right? Cannot be. Like it's so crazy to believe that an object has its own identity, its own function. But didn't that sound crazy? It's crazy to say this object has no nature of being a pen at all. No nature. Do you see how the other schools are going to play? No, no, there's some pennishness in it, and we just lay on the red and white Serrani's pen. But pen, come on. It's there once I see it. So if this object is on the table, nobody perceiving it, and we say, what's there then? Right? We all know what we're supposed to do. Can't say, but check your own mind. Do you have a mental image of a pen on a table that you can't identify until you see it? Do you see how strong our belief in things having their own identities are? Even when we're thinking about them not having their own identities, we get this mental image when I just mention the object of a pen that I'm showing myself has no nature of its own. Wait, we started out from a pen. We have to because we're learning, but it's a mistake to say we start with a pen and then we show ourselves its emptiness. There's something, because without something, there's no emptiness. But it's not that the something's there first and then the emptiness shows up. And it's not that the emptiness is there and then something shows up. There has to be both, okay, at any given moment. So to say something is self-existent, literally, would mean that the pen exists absolutely on its own, independent of any other factor. We don't believe that. We believe that the pen came into being by a pen factory from the plastic with the ink. But, I had to be able to buy it or somebody had to, and then they gave it to me, right? It has a whole story about it, how it comes to be a pen, and then my pen, and then this pen. So what we mean by self-existent is, depending on the school that we're talking, is that the object has to have some kind of nature of its own for it to be an object that I experience in the way that I do. And the extent to which we're holding on to something that has to be there first reveals the level of understanding of dependent origination and emptiness that we are holding to at the moment. So in this chapter, Master Shantideva is going to weave us through those, spending a lot of time on the level called mind-only school, and then going from there to a variety of different, they call them proofs of emptiness, but different ways of, exploring that what's meant by empty nature of something. So when we are talking about this object can't be self-existent, meaning it can't be radiating its identity and function from it, independent of the person experiencing it. Sorry, I lost my train of thought at the beginning of that sentence. Sorry, recording. We so quickly jump to it's a pen that we've already missed the opportunity to recognize at any place along our experience of it we can become aware of the fact that it's not a pen in it from it, that the dog perceives chew toy, the infant perceives whatever it is they're calling it, the spaceman perceives, I don't know. And that right there, the clarity that a different being can different beings can be experiencing what appears to be the same object in completely different ways. When we recognize that fact, we are recognizing the fact that the identity or the object has no identity of its own. And that's what we mean by its no self nature. That's what we mean by its emptiness. That's what we mean by its being empty of self nature. And when we hear those words, we are wanting to grow this awareness to be able to hear like what our mind's reaction is to hearing even itself say, whoa, that object has no self nature. And see if our mind goes, oh, so it's not real. Or, oh, so, right, I'm making it up. Or, right, we're wanting to catch ourselves having this misperception of what it means to find something's no self nature. And this discussion Master Shantideva gives as if it's between himself and a mind-only school person helps us recognize what our own mind will be doing as it's grappling with this idea that an object with no self nature can be here versus an object with its own nature is impossible. Right? So again, we've already heard all of this before. And part of our task for this set of classes could be to try really hard not to always jump to the conclusion that we already know, but watch your mind trying to get there through reasoning, or watch your mind wanting to just jump there and not go through the proof to yourself of why it's that way. Right. So when I say, so this object is not self-existent, we know it depends on all kinds of things. What kinds of things does it depend on? Don't jump to the conclusion. Watch your own human mind. What kinds of things does this pen depend on for me to have it here as a pen? I already said it. It has to have, true, it has to have eye awareness. Wait, it does? I do. I have to have eye awareness. Well, does that mean if I were blind, I could not know that this thing is a pen? I could not perceive this as a pen because I don't have eye awareness? Nope, right? So technically, the pen does not depend on my eye awareness. The pen I see depends on my eye awareness, but not the pen that I feel. What else does it depend upon? The plastic, the ink, all the workers in the factory that put it together. Whoever ordered it and brought 10 billion of them across the ocean to the United States, right? Mike said the fact that it worked, okay? It also depends on that. It depends on having ink in it, doesn't it? If it doesn't have ink in it, is it still a pen? Like our mind goes, of course it's a pen, but now it's a pen that doesn't function, so I'm just going to throw it away because now it's a pen that has no more value to me because it can't function. Wait a minute. Whoops. So, right, it doesn't have any working in it. Even when it's full of ink, it doesn't have any working ink in it. But like, come on, think of the pen that's sitting on your desk. Does it have working ink in it? Intellectually, we know no, but come on, when you think of it. Yes, of course, it's a pen. It's got ink, or I would have thrown it away if it were empty. We're wanting to catch our minds. All right, so when we can conclude that the object cannot be bringing its own identity and function to the party, then we can experience a given object in a way that allows it to be whatever it is that we perceive. Allows it, because that means it allows it to be something different for somebody else. Now, that allowing, it's not coming from it either. It's our own mind that's recognizing, whoa, this object, right? It's a pen for me, but it doesn't have to be a pen for anybody else. And in fact, the pen that it is for me is completely unique to me. And even if there was me and my identical twin sitting here together, looking at it, it still is not the same pen, is it? Because I'm seeing it from this angle, they'd be seeing it from that angle. And so it's a different object. Even as we both say, pen, ink, writing an instrument, we could all have all those same words putting on the identity. But what we mean by those words, what we experience through those words, is unique to each of us. If the object had anything about it that was telling us what it was, then it would have to do that the same to everybody. And then we would all have to have similar experiences. But wait, don't we believe we all have similar experiences? Describe the pen that I was holding. What color was it? Red and white. Did everybody see it as red and white? Is there anybody who's colorblind in our class? And even if they are colorblind, my experience with colorblind people, they would say the thing is red and white. But if I really were able to experience what they experience, I would call it gray and white. But they've learned to call that shade of gray red because that's what everybody else has done. And they've just come to fit in. So it's curious. Okay, even when we say we all agree, this is a red and white pen, Sarani's red and white pen from AARP, we still don't mean the same thing. Okay, so all of that is what we're going to be exploring. Now the question is, why do we see pen the way we see pen? And puppy dog sees chew toy and baby sees we don't even know what yet. Why? I know you know the answer, but don't just blurt it out. Think. What needs to be happening if the object itself is not telling us anything about itself? What has to be happening in our mind? Are we having an experience? Where do experiences come from? Are experiences results? Yeah, but what do you mean by that, Mike? That's the that's the conclusion. Tell me how we get there. Yeah. Somebody did tell us that's something to write with. Yeah. But why? How can my actions determine a perception? I have to be having the perception before I even act. Yeah, I know. Those are all the punchline. Let's get there. Right. You're recording your actions now. So when we record something, does it play back simultaneously? Can it play back simultaneously? Right. Played back in the future. Is everybody seeing Mike's chat? I'm reading it. So, right, could even be past lives. In fact, probably is. So then every moment of our playback, we could call results, right? Every experience is a result of something. Does that fit? Every changing thing has a cause. Not the kind of causes we think, says Arya Nagarjuna, but every changing thing has to have a cause. Something to make it change. So any experience that we have has to be the result of a cause. Logic? Do we agree? No, because there's no object there to touch, Tracy. So if our current moment experience is a result, what made the cause of that result? That's where Mike was going. What does a result come from? And if the result is a picture coming from our own mind, where does the cause of the result have to be? Yeah, in our own mind. How does a imprint, so the cause of a result had to have been put in there, put there. Let's not even say in there. Cause of result has to have been put there in order for it to be there, in order for it to come out as our experience. How do we put that cause into our mind? Experience ourselves, right? Experience ourselves experiencing something. So when we perceive ourselves thinking, saying, doing towards what we perceive as other, those actions are imprinting our awareness. So every moment we are imprinting. And anything that we are experiencing that we imprint about had to have already been imprinted and now is ripening as our result. So the experience we have now is a ripening result of previous imprints of how we acted towards that ripening result. And so our experience and our response to the experience is planting imprints for future experiences and future responses to those experiences. It can't happen immediately. We can't imprint and exprint, right? The result immediately, because then the cause and the result would be the same thing, and you don't have cause and result happening. Can't happen simultaneously until we are omniscient. Yes, absolutely. The seeds are different. The baby does not grab a pen, taste it, and throw it on the floor. I see the baby do that. My seeds are different than the baby's seeds. Now, what it is to be human, for most humans, but not all, is that the object starts out in this some other identified way, and at some point that baby manages to pick up the pencil and write on the wall with it, right? I think probably we all got in trouble for drawing on the wall because we don't know, right, what's appropriate use of the thing, but we saw everybody write with it, so we do too. Did that come from seeing everybody write with it? Actually, no. It had to have been previously imprinted seeds for writing, helping others write, in order to have the seeds ripen that, gee, what you do with this thing is this. So we can see how deeply hidden the direct correlation of cause and effect is. It takes an omniscient being to see what actually is the causes for all of us to see this red and white pin. There are very specific behaviors that we did. And an omniscient mind knows that. And then, in addition, that omniscient mind then knows is the wrong word. It experiences directly what this mind stream, how this mind stream is mistaking the pen, even as I'm doing my best to describe its no self nature, independently originated nature, I'm still hearing myself and misunderstanding. And an omniscient being is experiencing me getting it wrong as I try so hard, and they experience exactly what I need in order to get it right, in order to shift the way I experience myself from ordinary human to Buddha me and Buddha paradise emanating. They know directly what each of us needs. So I'm jumping ahead because I have an audience that's already going there. But let's come back to the pen. What pen? This object. Okay. Let's come back to this thing. We say, the literature says, we are seeing a pen as a writing instrument because we are forced to do so by the ripening of our karma. And what we mean by karma, as we all know, is the ripening mental imprints that we put there by some kind of behavior in the past. And then we understand that when we make an imprint and that becomes an exprint, there's the first law of karma, which is karma is definite, which means a kindness imprint must bring a pleasant exprint, right? Using that word. Because it was imprinted as kindness. It has to come out as kindness. An unkindness, even as it grows and right fluctuates, it's gonna come back as a unkindness. And then there's some similarities, although that's where it starts to get really complicated. But we can rely upon that no matter what, because imprints made are made and done. If they're made complete, remember, doesn't mean we can't affect them because they are being affected by everything that we do. And that's the beauty of this understanding, is that once we understand that the seed being imprinted is happening as we witness ourselves reacting to our previously ripened results, we can step into this exquisite power for burning off our mistake and creating this pure world. So, because there is nothing in existence that has any nature of its own, because absolutely everything in every moment of existence lacks its own nature, our interaction with those empty of nature things is where we create the future, where we are creating our future. And so we can learn to create the seeds that will become the results that force us to perceive ourselves as Buddha me and Buddha paradise emanating. There's no other way to do it, in fact. So in this course, we finally actually get a definition of emptiness. I don't think we've ever had it before. We understand emptiness, no self-nature on all these different levels. But what's the definition of emptiness? So I'm going to screen share here. How am I doing? Oh my gosh, it's break time already. I've just done 3 pages. You know what? I think I told you, maybe I didn't tell you, that in my computer, I booked this Zoom class for 3 whole hours. Not that my computer cares, but just in case I need to go overtime. Okay. And then if you can't stay overtime, feel free to go and you can listen to the recording, but I don't want to condense things for you because you guys know too much, right, to do this in a short version. But I also don't have the schedule time to say, let's just make 15 classes out of it. All right, we'll do that with course 13, but not this one. Okay, let's take a break. Like my pet demo. What happened? Thanks, Tracy. You know, Zoom did this update. Now everything's all different. It really throws me for a loop. I'm such an old dog.
Yeah, but is there any self-existent nature of Zoom?
No. Are you seeing the screen share?
Yes.
Is it big enough to read?
Yeah, and I'm on my phone, so it is big enough.
Okay. I don't actually see it. But I guess I don't need to see it. But now I've got a green blob in the way. And maybe that'll make it go in. All right. That'll teach me for complaining about it.
Oh goodness, those seeds are gone.
Yeah, all right.
Lama Sarani, I wanted to thank you for that last discussion of the pen. I still think about the first time I heard the pen, and then somebody asked me about watching something, and I said, "Oh no, I already watched Geshe talk about that." And when they told me I had to listen to it 3,000 times, I looked at that like they were crazy. And in this moment tonight, just bringing the baby into it, I just find like fireworks are going off in my mind. So thank you. I
Okay.
appreciate it.
Well, thanks for sharing. Are we back? Claire, come back. Okay, so hopefully on your screen share, you are seeing ACI Course 12 vocabulary. And then hopefully you are seeing Repeat after me. Dun ganshik nusum du tokpa trima separ jepa. Dun ganshik nusum du tokpa trima sepa jepa. Dun ganshik means that object which. Nusum du tokpa means to realize it directly, meaning perceive it directly. Trima separ means impurity, finish off completely. And Jepa, it does that. And it's like, wait, this is a definition that doesn't define it, but it does explain something significant about this thing called emptiness. So it is that object which, once we directly experience it, what that means is important. All of our impurity completely finished off, it does that. It doesn't do it in the moment we know, but to come into a direct experience of this thing we're calling emptiness, it has an effect on our mind stream such that we are at the beginning of the end of all of our mental afflictions, both manifest and seeds for more. So this thing we're calling the direct perception of emptiness is the only experience that that serves in that way. There's nothing else that we can experience that will affect our mind in that way. And that's what Master Shantideva is trying to explain to his audience. And again, he's doing it in verse. But it apparently, all the translators who try to translate the verse, they give up and they go to prose because you just can't do it in verse form in apparently any other language. I could be wrong about that, but I know for the English for sure. It requires this in-depth explanation. And then even from what is translated from Master Shantideva, I need in-depth explanation from someone like Geshe Michael for me to wrap my mind around it enough that I can try to convey that meaning. So this phrase doesn't even say emptiness. We have to know that that's what it's talking about. It's just saying that object, which when we perceive it directly, serves to bring us to total purity. Now, emptiness, this thing we call emptiness, another name for it is ultimate reality. And what we mean by ultimate reality is the ultimate reality of any existence, any existing thing. Even things as subtle as our changing thoughts, our changing awarenesses, any experience that we can have is empty of self-nature, and that is the ultimate reality of that moment, subject-object and interaction between. Now, that ultimate reality level of experience can only be directly experienced in a deep, deep state of meditation. that deep state of meditation, the ability to reach that, for most of us requires training and cultivation. And when we reach that ultimate reality, we will then know that it is a separate reality than anything we've ever experienced before. And we'll call it a higher reality, meaning a more pure reality. And Geshe always describes that it really does feel like you're higher. Although in emptiness, as we understand, there's no sense of above, below, side to side, me, other, until you come back out of it. And then he says it feels like you are descending in some way. But it's not like it's a place, 20,000 kilometers above Earth and to the left a little bit. It's not a location. It's a quality of experience, I guess. Mm-hmm. And when we come down out of that direct experience, that's when we recognize what we've just realized, meaning made real for us. We're not aware that we've made it real while we're doing it. We understand. We can't have a perception of subject-object interaction between when we are in this experience of ultimate reality. But then we come down out of it. And once we do, that's when we recognize that we've never correctly experienced anything before, and that we realize nothing bad will ever happen to us. Yes, unpleasant things will happen. Yes, we will have mental afflictions, but we won't be rocked from our spiritual path as a result of them. We will always have solutions and be able to carry them out. It takes time for our experiences and our interactions with our experiences to get more and more pure, but it's triggered by that experience. Even if we didn't make any significant effort to change ourselves after that experience, the process would be happening. When we have training on how to work with our mental seeds, it goes all that much more quickly by way of how we continue to work with our purify and make merit. They say typically it takes 7 more lifetimes to complete this transition from suffering being to Buddhahood. When we have that direct perception under a mind influenced by bodhicitta, which we'll talk about, because not everybody's direct perception of emptiness necessarily puts them on the path to their Buddhahood. It does put everyone on their path to freedom from suffering. So after direct perception of emptiness, we get like 2 new references of ourselves. One is Arya, and one is stream enterer that we'll get back to for the Tibetan. They call us, we are now stream enterer, because the effect of that experience on our seed planting is such that we are on this conveyor belt to the end of suffering. As I say, you can just stand on that conveyor belt and let it happen, or you can walk, or you can run, okay? And the difference being the extent to which you use your new wisdom to actively change our behavior. So it's hard to imagine that someone would reach that place and just stand there on their conveyor belt and let things go, right? We're very likely to manage our seeds actively. And then there are ways to manage those seeds actively in such a way that you could get that transformation to happen in that lifetime in which you had your direct perception of emptiness, which is the promise of the highest yoga tantra practices. You know, in my own mind, this is not scripture, and I'm trying to work with all these little clues that I've been getting. It's like, okay, I get you really could do it in one lifetime. And could it be the case that as you're doing it in one lifetime, your perception of your own identity is changing in such a way that even if your body of a particular lifetime ends and you take your mind right on into the next one, you don't perceive it as a different lifetime. And maybe it takes the same amount of time as 7 lifetimes, but your perception is you did it all in one lifetime. And it's like I'm kind of grappling with that to say, that maybe makes more sense than saying, if I don't get it done in the next 25 years, I'm out of luck. Because it's not like that either once you're on highest yoga tantra path. But what's critical is seeing emptiness directly. Whatever level of practice you're practicing on. And they can all bring us to the point of having that direct perception of emptiness if we have the right, the circumstances ripening at the right time. All right, so how does it work that this 20-minute experience changes us so dramatically that we're on the conveyor belt to the end of all suffering? And again, we've heard the explanation, we understand, but let's go at it a little more slowly so that we can pick up little clues maybe that we had skipped over before. So before seeing emptiness directly, in any moment of our experience, we are experiencing a me and a mine. And as we experience them, we are experiencing them as having their identities and qualities and functions in them, right? We are experiencing me and mine as self-existent. But I don't want to keep using those same words. I want to break it down. When we say me and mine, me is Sarani. Mine is anything about Sarani. So at beginning levels of study, it's like, oh, me and my parts, my arms, my legs, my body, me and my things, my computer, my husband, my job. As we get more sophisticated in our understanding, we recognize it means me and how much I care about my reputation, me and my personality, me and things I think bring me happiness and don't, right? More and more gets included in what we mean by me and mine as our awareness is growing of how this process all works. But at any level we are working on, we are learning to be aware that as I'm experiencing things, included in the experience is me, in me, pan in pan, And so me can use pen. Good pen. Yeah, I'm saying mine, M-I-N-E. But me and mind, right? Mind is part of my mind. Until the pen, right? It like inks all over everything. And then it's like, that's not a good pen. Throw that thing out. Go for another one. So the inherent in the experience of me and mine is the experiencing it all in this mistaken way, but it's not mistaken for us. It's the way it's always been. So me with my own identity, the object with its own identity, the experience I'm having with the object with its own identity, and included in that is whether I find it pleasurable or unpleasurable. And then from that is how I'm going to act towards it. If it's pleasurable, I want more of it. If it's unpleasurable, I want less of it. And then I believe that whatever I do in the moment either brings me more or pushes it away. And that's me and my life. Is it true that me is me, and the pen is the pen in the pen, and the interaction between is the interaction between? And if it's pleasant, I should want more, and if it's unpleasant, I should want less? Is it valid? Yes, as long as I'm not, right, drunk, high, whatever. I'm having valid experience. Even valid experience of me and me is valid, but is it correct? And see how squirrely it feels? It's like, what do you mean I'm not experiencing myself correctly? If I'm not experiencing myself correctly, what the heck am I, right? It's scary to admit I'm experiencing myself wrongly because we misunderstand what we mean by wrong. When we understand what we mean by wrong, it's like, bring it on, the right way of experiencing me. Takes a while to get there. So this view, self-existent me, self-existent other, self-existent interaction between old words, that view is called jikta. I think it's on my screen share. Jikta. It means ta is view and jik means destruction. So it's called the view, the destruction view. But really what it means is it's a view that is destructible. Although that view is a destruction view, because by continuing to behave according to it as true, we will in fact destroy everything about our experience because we are experiencing it in a mistaken way that we don't even know is mistaken. And so the way we act to keep or push it away fails in doing what it is that we did it for, even when it looks like it worked. So you grab the door handle, you turn it, you pull the door open, you believe that this is what opened the door. And we've just perpetuated our misunderstanding of my me and my world because the door actually opened when I pulled it. When in fact, turning the knob and pulling the door is not the cause of the door opening. Can I stand in front of a door and the door open without my turning the knob and pulling? Not a door with a doorknob, except have you ever been at a door that you're reaching for and suddenly it opens because somebody's on the other side and they've come in at the same moment? It's a little bit like, whoa, that's weird. And our mind automatically goes, oh, it's because they were on the other side opening it. But technically, it's a glimpse that we can open doors without turning doorknobs. Okay? Glass doors tend to do it. We have those experiences and we just go, no, no, it's because it's an automatic door. Okay, so Jikta, this view of destruction, it's describing the world as we know it and keep recreating it from our wrong world view. And so it feels weird to say that it's a false view because it's so real. And we think if it's a false view, as soon as we know it's a false view, it ought to just disappear. It's not a false view. Everything we experience has always been ripening results of our own past deeds. We just never perceived it that way before. So everything we've ever experienced has been a valid experience. They have happened, but we've always misunderstood them as they are happening. And so we act towards them in a way that's mistaken for bringing about the result that we want. Ultimately, bringing about the result we want, which is happiness. Ours for lower school, everybody's for higher school. So this view of destruction, jikta, it's talking about this reality in which we're focusing on a me and my experience, which is going to be destroyed. And its meaning is that this view itself is destroyable. Thank goodness. Because when we do destroy the belief in me, and you in you, and the interaction between being the result, when we destroy that belief, we destroy the first link in the wheel of life, that dependent origination wheel. We destroy the blind guy walking. We give the blind guy eyes that work when we experience emptiness directly. We're starting to give the blind guy really good glasses as we're learning intellectually. But the blind guy doesn't see until we've seen emptiness directly. When that happens, we stop recreating the cycle of suffering. We don't stop experiencing it, but we stop recreating it. But why? Why does the direct experience of the no self nature of everything mean that we stop perpetuating the wheel of life, even as we experience the wheel of life in the wrong way? Finding myself where I am in my notes. Got ahead of myself. In the sequence of coming to that direct perception of ultimate reality, we first have the experience, direct experience of the luminous image ripening into the object of our experience. We learn about everything's karmic seeds ripening, mental imprints, and we believe it enough to live according to it to the best of our ability. But once we have that direct experience, or however it's going to be for each of us, because it's been a direct personal experience, You now know something to be true on a deeper level than when we had proven it to ourselves intellectually. To experience the seed ripening and laying over making the hot fudge sundae out of the vanilla ice cream. Now we know. I would guess that somebody could have the seeds in a given life to see some extraordinary thing, like, an image going down and creating the identity. But what if we had that experience just the way Geshe-la described it, but we had not ever heard anything about mental imprints and mental seeds and seeds ripening? Would we necessarily interpret that experience as meaning, oh, I must have been really kind to somebody before in order to see my seed ripening? I don't think so either, Tracy. I think it takes this training, right, in a lineage that explains all this to us, that when our seeds ripen, goodness from past lifetimes as well, into the experience, we can interpret that experience in this unique way that allows us for it to have a greater impact on our mind. It's extraordinary. In my view, right? Our goodness is amazing. To hear Geshe Michael describe these things in such a way that when we put the pieces of the puzzle together, we come up with a greater whole than we would have. Like it's like we're putting together a jigsaw puzzle and we don't have the picture, but Geshe is describing the picture so that as these pieces go together, we go, oh, I see, I see. And then that will more quickly bring about the experience itself. So every time we hear this, we want to put all these pieces together so that we can understand it in a deeper way than we've done before. So when we have had that experience, oh my gosh, my seed makes pot on stove. Technically, my seed makes me seeing pot on stove. Technically, it's me seeing pot on stove, pleasant thing, I want to use it. Right? The whole story is these continuing seeds flying. And what you're right, he says flying out, but it's more like ripening the whole moment by moment experience. We will also understand then that the quality of the experience, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant, thumbs up or thumbs down, is included in the luminous image. And from that, we will then understand, oh, then the quality of thumbs up or thumbs down in the imprint made is where that quality comes from. And that's where we connect the dot between our own behaviors of kindness or unkindness and the pleasantness or unpleasantness of any experience that we have. We can't get an unpleasant result out of a kindness we saw ourselves do. I'm going to throw in saw ourselves try to do, because we can do something kind and we can have the experience that the person doesn't see it as kind and they react badly. Like, what's up with that? I saw myself being kind. I saw them getting mad at me. We already know those two are not related. Why not? Because they happen too close together. They seem to be cause and result, and they can't be cause and result. Because if they happen at the same time, they're not cause and result. You have to have the darn time delay until we're omniscient. So it's only a darn time delay when we want something good to happen. It's not a darn time delay when we smash a cockroach and our ribs don't break right away. Although in that way, if they did, we'd only do it once. Or we'd only have to see one person do it once and we'd go, whoa, I'm not doing that. But the point is when we get the understanding of it's our causes bring about any experience we can have, then we automatically want to be more kind. We want to learn what's morality then? How do I create nothing but pleasantness? Even if my motivation is just for me alone, let alone everybody. And of course, Buddha then spends half his time teaching morality because it's our conclusion when we see that we can't experience anything that's not our own mental seeds ripening. And the mental seeds got in there by what we experienced ourselves thinking, doing, saying towards another. All we want to do is be kind or stay like a bump on a log in a given situation. When we see that, our behavior changes. We're willing to make the effort to change our behavior. The experience of this seed ripening, and then swiftly after that, experiencing the fact that nothing exists in any other way than that, your direct perception of emptiness. And then coming out of that and having your 16 aspects of the four Arya truths, we'll get there. That sequence of events is what shows us beyond a shadow of a doubt that my behavior is how I create my world, me and my world. And at that point, our jikta, our view of destruction, is destroyed. We are no longer perpetuating it. When we no longer believe in the pen's nature in it, even as we experience it that way, we're no longer re-imprinting the mistake. That can only happen after the chuchok and the tonglam, the seeing the seed ripening experience, going in direct perception of the ultimate reality of things, and then coming out. We no longer believe that things exist in the way that they appear to us, because they still appear to us as having their identities in them. When we don't believe that, we don't re-imprint it. When we stop imprinting the mistake, it takes a certain period of time to burn off or destroy all the seeds that were planted with the misbelief, and to plant our new seeds with our new belief in these powerful ways, whether we're doing it with the goal of reaching nirvana, or we're doing it with the goal of our Buddhahood, or we're doing it from the practices of highest yoga tantra. So the Bodhisattva 6 perfections are the practices that we then perfect that will move us along the Bodhisattva path to our Buddhahood, which is the path that they say will take up to 7 lifetimes. Which isn't so long, given that we've been at this for a long, long time. Like technically that would be the culmination of our 3 times 10 to the 60th countless eons, right? Only 7 lifetimes is pretty fast. So I think the next thing in my vocabulary is Nyongde. Is that right? Nyongde means day is to overcome. Nyang is grief. So Nyongde means to overcome grief, to go beyond all grief, which we know is the way the Tibetans translated the Sanskrit word nirvana, which nirvana really means to blow out, like you blow out a candle. So it's funny, like, what are we blowing out? We're blowing out all grief. And we think of grief as, it hurts when we lose somebody. But there's so much more to samsaric suffering than just grief. But apparently, if you boiled it all down, right, all the samsaric suffering to one, it would be grief. Geshe says, no, they mean the term grief like when we say somebody who's bothering you all the time, they go, would you quit giving me grief? Right? It's like they're doing something and it's upsetting you and you just want them to leave, to go beyond grief. And I think it's like true on both levels. But deep, deep down, we want happiness and happiness eludes us. And so deep, deep down, we're grieving this inability to reach what we want. Like almost as if we're promised happiness and we just can't get it. To go beyond grief. So because perceiving the empty nature of oneself and all existing things leads to this change in behavior because we so intimately know that it's through my behavior that I make the seeds that will be the experience I will have in the future, that we clean up our behavior in ways that help us live according to the why things happen versus the how things happen. So the how I opened the door was I reached out, turned the knob, pulled. The why that worked to open the door, if it was a good thing, presumably it was because my kindness helped somebody achieve something that they wanted. Easily we can say because I held doors open for others when I had the opportunity. So we're understanding that on every level, everything we want can only come about as seed ripening results of ways we've helped somebody else get something similar that they want. So old worldview says you want to become wealthy, work hard, earn a lot of money, save it. That's jikta, that's view of destruction. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Sharing our resources is the cause for wealth. By sharing our resources, it seems like we're going to have fewer resources because of the time gap. Sooner or later, especially once we've direct perception of emptiness, it'll be sooner, right? We'll do nothing but share our resources, which means we'll always have resources to share. So now what does it mean to have wealth? Is it to have $1 zillion in the bank sitting there? Or is it to always have what somebody else needs at the moment? And it's like mind-boggling, but I can't have all that stuff in my garage. No, but you don't need it in your garage. You will have what's needed. And it's really beautiful when those kinds of things ripen. It even ripens as you will be for someone what's needed. You're the one there opening the door for the mom that's got 2 kids on her hips. You are what she needed at that moment. That's a form of wealth. So it's really beautiful as we're catching on to living in the why versus the how. It will take us to that state beyond grief, even if that wasn't our ultimate goal. So we'll get there. But why? Because we stop replanting the misbelief that things and me have their own nature. We can start planting those less strongly as we're learning about them. But it takes the direct perception of emptiness and coming out of it, obviously, to stop the belief so fully that we can no longer plant a seed that includes the belief in self-existence, even when we experience things in that way. All right. So Master Shantideva, in this chapter in your reading, he starts by saying all of these practices were taught by the Mighty One for the sake of wisdom. Therefore, those who wish to pacify suffering should generate this wisdom. The previous chapters were about the perfection of moral discipline, not getting angry, joyous effort, and meditation. Not how to meditate, but what to meditate on, if you recall. And now we're on to the chapter on wisdom. And we recall all those chapters, he was given us arguments for why to practice and clues about practice, about how to increase our generosity, how to maintain and grow our morality. But now he's saying, look, none of that really works to stop our suffering until we reach the direct perception of emptiness, until we reach wisdom. Right? Ordinarily, what we mean by wisdom is the wisdom that we have once we come out of that direct perception of emptiness. And then we've learned, until we have that experience, we try to do our 6 perfections with our intellectual understanding of emptiness and dependent origination. And we understand that we're not really doing the perfections as perfections, but we're doing them to gather the goodness that will help us ripen the result of the direct perception of emptiness. And so then we can actually do our perfectionizers with the wisdom that will grow them into the actual perfections, which will be when we are Buddhas. But it feels a little discouraging to me. It's like if I can't actually do my perfections without wisdom, how do I know I'm doing my attempts at perfections well enough to grow my wisdom? And it's like, oh, how does it really happen? And he's understanding that his audience is having this same thought. It's like, wait a minute, how can this work if we can't do a perfection without wisdom? And wisdom is the 6th one. So Gyaltsabje's commentary, he says, look, there are three ways that conundrum has been addressed through the ages. Geshe-la calls them 3 reasons for why the first 5 perfections aren't necessary for the realization of emptiness. And it's like, well, wait a minute, I just said that they were. But I said that they're not perfections that are necessary. It's the attempt to do them as perfections. So that's why it's such a conundrum. So these aren't really reasons, they're explanations for how to think about it. So first off, he quotes from Master Shankarakshita, who was one of the masters, not at the highest school, but was very influential for the Tibetans. And he says you don't have to practice the prior 5 perfections like bodhisattvas do in order to learn about and gain intellectual understanding of emptiness. So that makes sense. Like every time we go through the pen thing, we're having a growing intellectual understanding of right whoever is trying to explain it to you is trying to say. And in that way, we are growing our understanding of emptiness. We are growing our wisdom. And we can do that not ever having heard anything about the 6 perfections. Secondly, he says, we can even reach a profound intellectual understanding and deep conviction about the truth of emptiness without having practiced perfectly the prior 5 perfections. So we can learn about the perfections, and learning about them will help us want to learn more about emptiness because that's how we apply ourselves to those practices. But you don't have to be working with those previous 5 in order to grow this deep intellectual understanding. So it's like they're both saying the same thing, but they're talking at different levels, getting deeper and deeper. Then thirdly, he says, and look, listeners and self-made Buddhas, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, they are non-Mahayana practitioners. They don't practice the 6 perfections. They perceive emptiness directly. They reach this special insight. So it's true that we don't need the first 5 perfections to reach the wisdom. So, like, what's the point then? Why is this important? All these practices were taught by the Mighty One for the sake of wisdom. Therefore, those who wish to pacify suffering should generate this wisdom. This is Master Shantideva. What book is he teaching us? Guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life. He's not teaching us the guide to nirvana. He's teaching about the wish to reach total enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. So now what's the difference between reaching nirvana and reaching Buddhahood? To reach nirvana is to become arhat, enemy destroyer, right? To reach direct perception of emptiness is to reach Arya. Right, to reach Buddhahood, the difference between nirvana and Buddhahood is omniscience. So now, every Buddha, consider Buddhas. All Buddhas are arhats, right? So there's no difference between an arhat and a Buddha. No, you're saying no, there is a difference between arhat and Buddha. So Buddhas can't be arhats. No, they have to be arhats. Right. Arhats become Buddhas. And so all Buddhas are arhats, but not all arhats are Buddhas. All arhats are Aryas, but are all Aryas arhats? No. All Buddhas are Aryas, but not all Aryas are Buddhas. So Arya means superior one, meaning when we have seen emptiness directly and are out of it, we now are superior to any way we have ever been before. Arya is not saying, I am now superior to everyone. They are aware of themselves as being so different than their own mind stream has ever perceived itself. Why? Because now they perceive things as self-existent, but they don't have the belief that it's true. It must be really weird. Schizophrenic, because you want to not see it wrongly, but you can't not see it wrongly, and you know you're not seeing it rightly, and you're in the illusion. I'm supposed to get there. I'm not sure I'm gonna. So Arhat means no more manifest mental afflictions and no more seeds for more manifest mental afflictions. But Arhat is not Buddha. So Buddha has no more mental afflictions and no more seeds for more. But they also have somehow destroyed the obstacles to omniscience, which implies that a mind stream is only not omniscient because we have obstacles to it, which is different than saying, I don't have the seeds to be omniscient, so I'm not omniscient yet. There's something about that empty quality of our own mind, which is itself an ever present but never the same two moments in a row thing, that only doesn't perceive itself as omniscient because something's blocking it from doing so. What's blocking it from doing so is the effect of the belief in things having their natures in them from them, blocking the true nature of things, which is empty and seeds ripening and nothing but. So, yes, we have to see emptiness directly to stop the belief. And then we plant a lot of seeds without that belief. And we reach the place where there's no more mental afflictions or seeds for more, but there's still not omniscience being experienced until those obstacles to omniscience are gone. So now, right, what is it to be omniscient? Experiencing ultimate reality and appearing reality simultaneously all three times, always. And then as we dig into that, it means subject-object interaction between of every mind stream, right? We heard it in Diamond Cutter Sutra. I perceive everything in every mind stream in all times. And from in that is therefore the mind that's omniscient also perceives, experiences what every one of those mind streams needs to take up and needs to give up in order for them to reach their own state of omniscience. And then the love and compassion that brought us to that state spontaneously drives the emanations to be what any being needs. But does that necessarily mean that the being who that is emanating to sees Buddha emanating as what they need? I don't know about you, but I don't see it that way yet. Mm. So when Master Shantideva is saying all that we've learned about the six perfections, or the five perfections, it's not about learning how to see emptiness directly. It's about learning how to become a Buddha, learning how to grow our wish for total enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. He's using the word wisdom for planting the seeds for our Buddhahood, our Bodhisattva. It's quite beautiful. And then once he establishes that to his audience, we are not talking about how to use seeing emptiness directly to perfect your practice of giving. We're talking about how you use your direct perception of emptiness to grow the seeds for your Buddhahood. And then he knows he's got an audience that some people are Hinayana, some people are Shravaka, some people Pratyeka Buddha, some people aspiring Bodhisattvas maybe already. Now he's got a wide audience here. So in the rest of this chapter, he's going to focus on how we cultivate the seeds for the direct perception of emptiness with a mind imbued with bodhicitta, so that when we have our direct perception, we end up on the conveyor belt to our Buddhahood instead of the conveyor belt to our nirvana, which would be, a good thing to reach nirvana, but we're going to reach it along the way. We already showed ourselves that. So his point is, in order to cultivate our direct perception of emptiness for the first time, we need to be able to recognize the difference between what is and what isn't ultimate reality. So here I am past 8 o'clock. I actually don't have that much left, but let's take another break because I see saggy eyes, and then I'll finish up. I'm guessing it'll take me about 15 minutes, maybe 20. So stay if you can, go if you have to. But if you're staying, come back in a few minutes. Yes, Tracy, understand. Correct. Arya and Arhat are not omniscient. Arya still has grief. Arya still has mental afflictions and seeds for more. Arhat is that Arya who's worked on all of those mental afflictions and not replanted them. So has finally reached that point where no more. Then that being, if they're on Bodhisattva track, goes on to clear away their obstacles to omniscience. Okay, ready? Mm. So next, Master Shantideva says, these two truths we accept: deceptive reality and ultimate reality. Deceptive reality, we understand, kunsop tempa, means deceptive truth. We could also call it false reality. Geshe laughs and he calls it false truth. It's like, wait, you can't have a false truth. Other translators have called Kunso Dempa relative truth. Like you can't know long without knowing short, tall, short, right? The pairs of opposites in order to know either one, which is correct, right? Our world is like that. But that's not the meaning of Kunso Dempa as we've been so well trained. That rather, this deceptive reality is the reality that in which we are experiencing things with their identities and functions in them, right? Including myself with my identity and function in me, experiencing things in that way. Is what we mean by deceptive reality, where it feels very true and very real for me to be me and the pen to be the pen. And so I can reach here and hold it and use it to explain stuff. That does not feel deceptive to me. It feels very real. And it is real, but it's mistaken. And so technically, deceptive reality is that reality in which things don't appear to us as projections when they are. But do you see how really awkward it is to use that description of deceptive reality until we already understand what we mean by a projected reality? You can't really start there with somebody new and say, well, we're not perceiving things as our projections when really they are, and that's why we're deceived. They go like, yeah, hello, goodbye. But when we say, well, I'm perceiving things as in them, from them, and we already talked about the pen and the puppy and the baby and the me and how it's really not possible for things to actually exist in the way that we believe that they exist. And so in that way, there's a discrepancy between how we're believing in things existing and how they're actually existing. And, our mind's going to say, well, but if you're saying that things don't, they seem to have their nature in them, but they really don't. Well, then really you're saying they seem to be real, but they're really not real. And it's like, I know that's what it seems like, but that's not what we're saying. If we think this deceptive reality is not real, go stand in front of an oncoming car and see how real it feels. Right? Our reality, our experiences are real. The thing is, our experiences have always been projected results of past behaviors. They've never been in them from them. So these real experiences that we have, they are real because they are projected results. But I catch my own mind when I hear that. And it's like, no, no, a projection is like a movie. Movies are fun, they're moving, we laugh, we cry, but they're not real. It's not really happening. It's just a movie on a screen. Is that what we mean by projection? Like, technically, yes, but practically, no, because our projections have always been our projections, and our projections have always been real. That's what we've meant by real all along. We just didn't know it. We thought real meant In it, from it, in me, from me, bang, the two come together, and I have reality. It's never been like that. If it were like that, it would be impossible. And then things would be unreal. Not just unreal, they'd be not at all. Because it's impossible to have an experience of something that's not my experience of something. Every projection is my experience of something. Every perception is an imprint. So, can you experience something without experiencing it? No. And that's as absurd as saying, can you experience something that's not your own mind's result of some past behavior? No. It doesn't feel equally absurd, does it? That's where we're trying to go. So, deceptive reality is the belief in things as real, really in them, from them, in me, from me. When they're not real like that, they are real by way of projected results of past behavior. That makes them actually more real. Okay. So they say, so therefore, our deceptive reality is actually a world of illusion. And we hear illusion and we think, oh, looks like it's there, but it's not. But that's not what illusion means, is it? It looks to come from its own side, in it, from it, and that's not. But does that mean the pen's not there at all? No, because the pen that's in it, from it, can't be there. That's the illusion. When we see a mirage, we perceive water there. We think we can drink from the water, but we can't because it's just a mirage. But the mirage is very real. It's just not water. This pen is very real. It's just not a pen in it, from it. Never was, never could be. It's like a two-headed purple elephant in your room right now. No such thing as a pen in it, from it. Because we couldn't experience it. Why couldn't we experience it? Because it would depend on us to experience it in the way that we do. And that would make it not a self-existent pen. It's like, it's all semantics. No, it's not. It's critical mind machinations because our mind refuses to believe it, because it still leaps to the wrong conclusion. If it's not the way I perceive it to be, it can't be at all. Even when we intellectually know not to do that, we do it. And then we bounce right back. Ultimate reality, dum dum dumpa, is the ultimate truth of any experience or aspect of an experience, which is the empty nature of those three: subject, object, interaction between. Right? Anything about those three. Their ultimate reality is the fact that their identity and function and experience is coming totally from the mind results of the being who's experiencing them. And it's called truth because it really is true. That things are nothing but what our mental seeds make them out to be for us. That is the ultimate truth of me and mine, of you and yours. So, of these two great divisions of truth, are they two truths? No, there's only one truth. But are they two realities? Yes. Because our deceptive reality, the world in which things are in them from them, we are experiencing it. We are experiencing it validly. Is it a truth? No, it's an illusion. It's a mistake. The truth is none of those things have the nature in them that we believe. Does that make them non-existent? No. This ultimate reality is all around us in the sense that anywhere there's an existing thing and anywhere there's a me with existing things, there is the no self nature of the me, the subject, and the object of the experience, and the interaction between how I'm experiencing the object. The emptiness is always present. So you have just one existing thing, me, one other, and the interaction between, and we have the empty nature of those three, and that empty nature is available to be anything. And then you expand that by 2 and by 3 and by 4 and by gazillion. And we've got empty natures of things all around us constantly. And we always have. And there always will be. As Buddhas, do things stop being empty? No, of course not. Just because a Buddha's mind is perceiving the emptiness of all things all the time, do things stop being seed ripening, seed planting? No, we just don't call it karma. We call it merit and emanations. But we as Buddhas will perpetuate our Buddhahood. Do you remember the argument, Buddhas still have bodhicitta? No, bodhicitta is the wish to reach total enlightenment. I am enlightened. I can ditch my bodhicitta. No, you can't. Because we perpetuate it. Perpetuate our bodhicitta by way of our emanations. Okay. Okay. So when we perceive the seed ripening, is that the first time we've perceived deceptive reality? No, that's the first time we've perceived ourselves creating deceptive reality deceptively. But we've always experienced deceptive reality. We just didn't know it was deceptive. That would make a great debate. Is it deceptive if I don't know it's deceptive? Is this a projection if I don't know it's a projection? Yes, it has to be a projection I don't know is a projection. That's still a projection. Deceptive reality is still deceptive reality, even when we are deceived by it. Our own mind is deceived by it, so we don't know it. To be deceptive, it's still deceptive. It's slippery, it's scary. All right. So at the direct perception of emptiness, we lose 3 of the 84,000 mental afflictions that we apparently have, like on the spot. One of them is doubt in our path. We come out of our direct perception. We know that we've seen the Buddha and we've seen our own future enlightenment. We've seen it with the kind of experience like finally getting on the bicycle and riding it yourself. Even if you never ride it again, you know something you didn't know before. It's like that. It's a valid experience. You lose that doubt in your own future Buddha you is going to come about. It would be really refreshing. Second, you eliminate your belief in self-existence. We see the pen, we believe it's inside it. Arya perceives the pen as if it's inside it, but they don't believe anymore. We'll talk about it more. They understand the illusion, the illusory nature of the self-existent pen. They understand the projected nature of the pen that's here, but they can't see it happening directly. Just once you stop believing in Santa Claus, you can still play along, right? But your belief is gone. Sorry. When our belief in self-existence is gone, hallelujah. Because no matter how much we still see things as self-existent, we don't believe, the ignorance does not get replanted. That's what puts us on the conveyor belt out. We're not replanting ignorance the way non-Arya, not yet Arya, is replanting ignorance on some level, no matter how good our intellectual understanding is. Third mental affliction we lose is the belief that some kind of practices of austerity of body could ever help our spiritual practice. So it's curious that that one's so important, that it's one of the first three that we lose. But it's in the face of eons of belief that your spiritual practice, you need to purify and you need to harm this body in order to purify. And this practice, this realization says, no, samsara itself is enough suffering, that we don't need to bring on any more. And in fact, it's a negative deed to harm the vehicle through which we will transform into Buddhas in the effort to speed our spiritual practice. All right. So your meditation assignment is an analytical meditation on the difference between these two truths, these two so-called truths. Kunsa Dempa, not relative truth, but deceptive. How is it that it's deceptive? And then Dindam Dempa, ultimate truth. What is the ultimate truth of oneself, of one's experience, of one's other? So Geshe-la said, this is hard slogging. And he encouraged his classes to just dig in there and try. Don't expect to get great ahas, although maybe you will. Don't worry. Just keep at it. Keep at it. And so thank you for the extra time. It won't happen every class. Think of the person we wanted to be able to help at the beginning of class. We're doing this for them. Not many people will study at this level. We change ourselves, we change our world, we change them. Maybe they won't ever have to do it. So please be happy with yourself. And think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone that you can hold in your hands. Recall your own precious holy being. See how happy they are with you. Feel your gratitude to them, your reliance upon them. Ask them to please stay close, to continue to guide you, help you, inspire you, and then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it, and they carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. Their love, their compassion, their wisdom. It feels so good. We want to keep it forever, and so we know to share it. By the power of the goodness that we've just done, may all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person, to share it with everyone you love. to share it with every existing being everywhere. See them all filled with loving kindness, filled with wisdom, and may it be so. All right. Thank you so, so much. I'm stopping recording and I'm running away fast because I have to go to the bathroom really bad. See you Thursday. Yes.